The first episode of the 23-24 season of the Please Bet on Football Games podcast. I am your host, Alex, thrilled to be back here with on-air talent Joe. How are you today?
It feels very strange to hear you say those words, but it's also very familiar. I'm good. This is going to be part of our preseason series. We're just going to go through every division, talk about the teams, and basically keeping in theme with the rest of this podcast, it's going to be kind of like a Hard Knocks for football gamblers. Like, that's kind of what this is. It's the origin of this podcast is that we would do the call while I was in the hot tub in LA every week, and we would you would tell me which games we're playing, and I would tell you how I felt about the line, and then we workshop it a little bit and figure out our bets. That's all this podcast really is. So this series is going to be us going through every team in every division by division and getting ourselves reacquainted with the players, reacquainting ourselves with the changes that each team has made in the offseason, and figuring out how we feel about them. Not necessarily for season win totals, not even necessarily for power rankings, but just so that we can have handicaps for week one.
Yeah, it's been an off season for us too. We haven't been paying as much attention to football as we do during the year. And so we're getting caught back up too. This is a little bit of a refresher. This is us talking and figuring out where we stand on every team just to kind of get us ready for when these games are for money. So, first up, you want to talk about the North?
Yeah, let's start our series with the North. We're both Northern boys. I'm a native of the NFC North. You're a native of the AFC North. Both of our fandoms have since been renounced, but we keep tabs out of spite.
Absolutely. All right, let's do the AFC first. So first team we're going to talk about, the Baltimore Ravens.
So the big story with the Ravens is going to be Todd Monken taking over for Greg Roman, right? They're going from the offense tailor-made to limit the impact of Lamar Jackson's passing and processing. And they're switching to Todd Monken, a guy we're somewhat familiar with, not from his Georgia days as much, but certainly from his Browns days.
Mm-hmm. A little bit Tampa.
A little bit Tampa. I mean, he's a guy who's had prolific offenses everywhere he's gone, if you look at it. Like, even when you consider how much of a disaster Freddie Kitchens was, the fact that the offense was even remotely competent ever speaks well to Todd Monken, who was the offensive coordinator who didn't get to call plays at the time. But he did design some. And then, Georgia, they managed to be really productive with a bad quarterback and, shall we say, a shallow group of wide receivers. Like, their tight ends were dope as fuck, but there's only so much you could do with two tight ends.
Yeah.
Like, just go ask the Packers last year, or the Patriots every year since Hernandez went to prison.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did a good job. He took that that team from a great defense that has athletes to a complete team.
And in Tampa Bay, with Jameis, he put some things together.
He did. He liked to throw the ball downfield.
Well, I mean, that's basically what we're getting at is Tom Monken's going to throw the ball more. They're going to run a lot of pistol, a lot of shotgun. Lamar is comfortable with both of those. You can run a lot of quarterback runs out of both of those. Holy fucking shit. PFF has Lamar Jackson as QB5 from last year. I think this is broken because they also have Kyle Hamilton as the number 1 rated safety last year. Sidebar, Cubs win. So a lot of any handicap about the Ravens is basically just going to come down to, can Lamar Jackson throw the football effectively? And I don't think. Do you think so?
I don't think he's ever really shown us that he can.
Todd Monken's quote, and it's not me. You can't get me in trouble for saying this. He said this was, "We're gonna have Lamar Jackson slanging that thing with an A, like he did back at Louisville." Now, if you watched Lamar Jackson at Louisville, he didn't really slang that thing. He mostly ran that thing. So I don't know what they think is going to occur, but I do know that I really, really like what they've built in the wide receiving core, even though I'm a notorious Odell Beckham. Fuck it, I'm an Odell Beckham hater.
Yeah, you are.
I'm a hater, but Rashad Bateman, again, I think he's overrated, but he's a good player.
Will he play, though?
No.
Because he's in that J.K. Dobbins room now where they're both perpetually injured.
And the Ravens did get an F on their player training thing. Apparently
about those.
The Ravens players think that there's a reason they're always fucking hurt. And it also could have something to do with the fact that they've won 25 consecutive preseason games. Yeah. Keep that in mind this weekend.
Now, granted, didn't Bateman have injury issues in college too? Didn't he get hurt before they even drafted him?
He might have.
Or,
I don't know.
Immediately after.
I think he had one. I think he had one injury at Minnesota.
Yeah, but I thought it was early that it's like, what is their strength coach doing that he's breaking breaking his leg in 2 weeks with the team. But I agree that their wide receiver room is a lot stronger. I mean, Nelson Aguilar is a nice option for throwing deep like that.
I was going to say, they got two of my dudes in Nelson Aguilar and Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers he's really good. He's going to be very fun. Reports are he's kicking ass already, too.
Here's the thing that worries me. They're all good, but they're all somewhat similar in that they are smaller receivers who win with quickness. Lamar Jackson is not accurate. It is hard for inaccurate quarterbacks to use quick receivers who get open using speed that are small. Typically, inaccurate quarterbacks prefer bigger dudes who can erase mistakes and limit the thinking because, like, George Pickens is always open. If the ball's in the air, he's going to try and get it, and he's got a good shot. So it's weird because I think that on one hand, this is the best supporting cast Lamar Jackson's ever had in terms of a better offensive coordinator in general and the best wide receivers he's had in general, but I also think that they are directly opposite to what makes him good.
Yeah, I think it'll also be a transition for that offensive line because they've really built that offensive line to be kind of maulers.
Yeah.
And now they're going to be transitioning into more of a pass-heavy offense, or at least a situation where they need to pass block a lot longer.
Yeah.
And Kevin Zeitler's not that kind of guy anymore.
Neither is Morgan Moses.
Yeah, and Ronnie Stanley, how many games will he play?
Yeah.
Is he the same guy?
Yeah. Because that was Ronnie Stanley's bread and butter when he came out, but he is always hurt.
Yeah, I mean, how many games has he played in the last 2 years? I'm looking it up, but...
Yeah, he's played 18 games in the last 3 years, including one game in 2021. So yeah. Ronnie Stanley is a shell. He's also 29, so it's not getting better.
Yeah, and, him playing 11 games last year, I think is a little encouraging, but still, the fact that he played 7 the 2 seasons before that and has been hurt in every season of the last 3 seasons, that concerns me.
I also don't know who the fuck is going to play left guard, because, Zeitler's old ass is definitely playing right guard, and that's fine. The thing about Kevin Zeitler is that he was a good guard for a long time, and then he went to the Giants and kind of stunk. And when he went to the Ravens, his PFF metrics and his pass block win rate metrics went up. But like you mentioned, I think that's got a lot to do with the kind of offense they were running.
Yep.
Which is conducive. Like, most motion-heavy, run-heavy offenses are easier on offensive linemen, just because defensive ends can't pin their ears back, right? It keeps people on their toes, or I guess in this case on their heels. So Zeitler's a fine right guard. And then at left guard, I don't know who the fuck they're going to play, dude, because it looks like right now they're trying to start a guy named Mala Esa Sala, which sounds like a good Indian restaurant. Mala Esa Sala Aumavai Laulu?
I'm going to guess he's a Pacific Islander.
Yeah, something tells me.
I'm glad that you said that name because there was no chance that I was going to try it.
I'm going to click on his picture. Yep. Guess where he went to college?
BYU.
Oregon. The other one.
It's one or the other, man. Now, sometimes Washington. You get some Washington guys.
Only the nose tackles.
Yeah, that's the Danny Shelton.
Yeah. But so they also have Ben Cleveland.
I was going to say, I figure Ben Cleveland, but...
He should start, but there's a reason I think that he's not listed as a starter. And then also, what I would do is they do have big-ass Dan Faalele, who they could put in at guard, or they could put in at left tackle or at right tackle and kick Morgan Moses inside.
Yeah, but I think that goes to, just looking at the sizes of some of these guys, the guys that aren't playing, Ben Cleveland is 6'6", 370.
Yep.
Faalele is 6'8", 380.
And that's generous. He's probably 4'10".
And so, I think, and that's part of the change they're going to have to make, is they're not going to be able to put out there just these giant roadblocks like they've had since Lamar has been there, since they got Greg Roman in. And so they're going to have to play differently.
Yeah, honestly, they moved their entire offensive line more towards what Tyler Linderbaum does at center.
Yes. He's the one guy that fits really well with what they do now. And, maybe they were kind of planning this a year ago.
So, what do we think of the Ravens' offense? Because it really is going to boil down to Lamar and if the offensive line can stay legit.
I think they're actually going to produce because I think Lamar will be able to just throw moonballs. And he doesn't really have to get him that close because he has such speed at wide receiver. I think he's going to have a lot more turnovers. And there are going to be games where he's got 2 fumbles and 3 picks and he loses the game for them. But I think he's going to have more space with them spreading the offense out, which will help him. But they have good receivers. Yeah. I like Monken, and Lamar's not good throwing the ball downfield, but I think his legs will give him space and will spread the defense that there's going to be a lot of just wide open guys that get loose.
I think that Todd Monken has earned a little bit of faith, and this is the reason that I'm not fading the Ravens offense like crazy this year. I think Monken has earned some of our faith in that he's not just going to go in there and be like, nah, dude, we run 4 verts. That's what we do. He's not going to do that Byron Leftwich shit. He's going to look at his quarterback and say, I have a running back playing quarterback. I should let him run. And I know he just signed the big contract. You want to preserve him, but it's really only a 3-year deal. I don't think that should affect how you're coaching your team.
I think it definitely will, though. Do you think Lamar signed that deal and was like, okay, so the vision for me is to keep running like I did with Greg Roman?
Honestly, Lamar is pretty stupid and cocky, yes.
See, I think that he's cocky enough to go, let me throw, protect my body.
Very true.
And I'll do both of them.
Very true. That's what he did at the Combine.
Yeah.
That's why we've never seen him run a 40-yard dash. By the way, it would have been in the 4.6s.
I don't know, man. He's fucking hard to tackle.
That's so not an estimate.
I'd give him
no, he's a fucking incredible runner. There's no taking that away. He's super slippery. And as funny as it is, his vision as a passer, not good. His vision as a runner, so good.
Elite, yeah.
He gets it. Okay, so their offense is going to be probably decent.
I think it's going to be it's going to be a little bit like, I think a better version because they're just a better team and better coach, but a little bit like the Cardinals, where some weeks they're going to put up 45 points and they're going to look unstoppable, and then they're going to have other weeks where they turn the ball over 4 times and can't complete any passes and look a little lost.
I have a question. Does it make a ton of sense to you to fade the Ravens offense early in the season when they're adjusting to this new scheme, and then slowly as the season goes on they'll figure it out? Because I could see them coming out passing heavy early in the season and then around week 4 being like, oh, fuck, we should just run Lamar. Because I think by week 17, if Lamar is healthy, big if.
Very big.
If Lamar is healthy, I could see them being like, we're a running football team. Like, that's what we do. And Todd Monken's smart enough to incorporate the old offense. But I could see early them trying to be revolutionary and fucking themselves.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely what will happen. My only worry is that we know NFL teams are dumb.
Yeah.
And I think defenses are going to say, hey, this is the Ravens. I don't care what they did this offseason. We're not letting Lamar run all over us. And they're going to play the Ravens like teams have played the Ravens for the last 2 years, which is throw everyone near the line and make them try and throw. And so I think they might have like a week or two where defenses just aren't playing them for deep passes and they catch some teams off.
That's a good point.
But I do agree that then there's going to be a lull.
You know what? You know what'll solve that real quick? They open the season against Houston.
I was going to say, what's their schedule? Yeah.
Houston's going to do that. They're going to come out and they're going to play press cover 3 because that's what fucking D'Amico Ryans loves. And the Ravens will throw the ball on them a little bit. And the next week, do you know who they play? Cincinnati. And Lou Anarumo just drops 8. It's just all he does. Mm-hmm. And he says, try it, motherfucker. And they will. And Lamar's going to get picked.
Yeah, because I think they'll put up 40 points in week 1.
They could.
And go, watch out.
We're coming. We're a throwing team now.
Yeah, we got a new offense. We're dual threat. Lamar can do it all. And I think those receivers will help a lot because I agree that big guys are typically what you want for inaccurate players, but I think for Lamar, who just kind of chucks balls into the air, it helps to just have fast guys that can go
adjust and get
yeah, they can go track it. And when the balls are just tossed up, like the DBs can't actually follow and track because they're watching their guy.
He still does have the go up and get it guy in Mark Andrews.
He does.
And Isaiah Likely. Okay, so their offense will be fine.
I think it's going to be a good offense.
It won't be worse.
I agree. I think it'll be better than last year, although I agree that it will catch up to them.
I think it'll probably be similar.
Once teams start playing them like a throwing team, because they're not as good of a throwing team as they are of a running team. And so I think then they'll hit a lull. But
Okay, moving to the defense, because we've spent a lot of time.
Yes.
Very simply, they're all in on Kyle Hamilton playing strong safety, legitimately, instead of linebacker. I don't love that move.
Me either.
They replaced Marcus Peters, a good yet aging outside cornerback, with Rock Yassin, a not-so-good, small, probably should stay inside cornerback.
Yeah.
And they lost Calais Campbell. But they're still going to do that thing where they play the 3-4 with 3 effective nose guards in Madubuike, Pierce, and Washington. Like, all 3 of those dudes are probably a nose guard on a 4-3 team. So you just can't run on them. They will control the line. And then Tyus Bowser or Jason Owa are both, or it's not Jason Owa now, it's Odafe.
Yes.
You guys gotta stop changing your fucking names. You got until sophomore year of college. After that, it imprints upon me and I stick. Stop adding last names. Stop picking different sounding first names. Please have one name. I'm begging you. I don't mean to dead name you. It imprints. Anyway, I almost just fucking did it again. Owe and Bowser are both athletic but below average defensive ends or linebackers, whatever the fuck, edge rushers. I like what they do on defense. McDonald's a really creative defensive coordinator. I just don't see which part of this defense scares you anymore. Like, I love Marcus Williams as free safety, but there's a weakness next to him in Kyle Hamilton in coverage, in my opinion.
And Marcus Williams had a little bit of a step back last year.
Yeah, but he was asked to do something so different. I think that he'll adjust and he'll catch up.
That's fair.
And then Marlon Humphrey is really good. He will continue to get away with holding. It won't matter. But
he's just a grabby guy.
Yeah, he basically figured out the code, which is if you hold every play, they can only call so many holds.
Yep.
But then they're lacking in the nickel spot. Right now, Brandon Stevens is scheduled to start. That's not good. They also might start Jalen Armour-Davis. I liked him at Bama, but he played like 4 games. So it's super hard to know what the fuck he is, even though he is a freak athlete. And he could totally be good. I guess my last tidbit is watch out for David Ojabo.
And that was literally what I was going to say.
I totally forgot that he's good.
I love him.
I do too. I really like his game. I think he's a first-round talent. How he heals up, he tore an Achilles, right?
Yeah.
That's tough. But he is young-ish. He's like 23, 24.
Yeah, because he wasn't like an old prospect coming out.
He was an older prospect.
Was he?
Yeah, but he's a second year. And he had played so little football. His body's young. He'll be fine, I think.
Yeah, he turned 23 in May.
Yeah, so he's fine. Oh, because he came out early, but he was older. Regardless, David Ojabo, if he is a good starting B-plus caliber edge, that could really change shit for their defense. But it's hard to rely on a first-year player, and that's what he is. And then...
What do you mean? He played 23 snaps last year, Joe.
Uh-huh.
He's seasoned.
He's got a lot of experience being in the training room, getting taped up and rubbed down.
With a lot of really good players on the Ravens.
With half the Ravens. All right. So the defense is going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be elite. I don't think it'll be special.
Yeah. I'm still curious about what that linebacking core looks like.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Roquan Smith, they gave that huge deal to.
Yep.
He played well for him, but it's also, he was in a really good situation to play like that.
We have a large sample of him not being very good with the Bears. And making a lot of tackles, but just being abused in coverage. Same with Patrick Queen.
I was about to say, and then you have Patrick Queen. It's just a worse version.
Both played pretty good last year, though. Even though both kind of are supposed to stink. So it might be that McDonald just plays a very sheltering defense for linebackers. And frankly, I don't have a very good feel for what his defense is because it's so multiple and so disguised. Like, he's probably the most innovative defensive coordinator in the league right now.
They do run all kinds of stuff, but it's still kind of simple because they don't really blitz that much. They normally just rush their front 7, drop everybody else, or keep their front 7 up, and just hope something pops with one of their athletic guys that's on an edge spot.
All right, overall, caliber-wise, how do we feel about the Ravens?
I think they're going to be in that low end of the playoff picture where I think they're right at the double-digit wins, around 10, 11 wins. Just because I think anytime you have a good coaching staff like the Ravens do, and I know they had some turnover, but with Harbaugh at the helm, I think it's going to be a stable, strong room.
They're always going to be buttoned up.
And then you have better wide receivers. A lot of the young guys on defense are at least another year into it, and maybe some of those defensive edges will pop. You still have some really good players in the secondary. I think they're going to be a good, solid team. They won't be incredible because you still have Lamar that can't pass like that. I don't think they have any studs in their front seven that can really put the pressure on an opposing offense. But that secondary will still be solid. They're coached well. They're going to attack a lot of bad teams. Like, they're the perfect team that scores 40 points on a bad team, and then it's a 20-17 anytime they play a real team.
I think I'm with you. And I think that, honestly, in a vacuum, they're probably a low-end playoff team, but as weak as the NFL is right now, they're probably pretty solidly a playoff team. I like the algorithm, which we know is just a rule of thumb. It's not, I made the algorithm. I don't take it as gospel. It has them 6th.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked. I think they're definitely top 10. I think they're just maybe on the slightly lower end, but you're right, the league does kind of suck.
League kind of sucks. Like, relative to other years. It's fun. I love football. The NFL is always great. But, like, relative to we were kind of spoiled, dude. We grew up in the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Big Ben era. Like,
Drew Brees.
We're used, Aaron Rodgers. We're Jay Cutler. He belongs in that conversation. He's right there. But we grew up in a golden era of awesome football teams and a ton of parity. We have parity now because nobody's that great.
Yeah, it's a very different type of league. Although we do get a lot of close games still, it's just chaos.
Drake May and Caleb Williams are coming to change that, though. It'll be okay.
And Sam Howell this year.
And Sam Howell, but not...
We'll get into that.
He's not their caliber.
No, he's not.
All right, that wraps up the Ravens. Who do you want to do next?
Next up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay, remember how I said that the Ravens are the 6th team for the algorithm? The Bengals are 0.01 lesser, so they're 7. They're basically virtually tied.
I think that makes sense.
I am a noted Joe Burrow hater. I understand that everybody will disagree, but that offensive line has become ridiculous.
They're pretty fucking good now, which is so funny because, 2 years ago they were awful. And they've revamped it.
They might have 2 good starting offensive lines on the same team. So, at left tackle, they got Orlando Brown. He is a B-plus left tackle. Like, he's not elite, and that's maybe why the Chiefs didn't pay him. I still would have paid him. He's really fucking good. He's definitely better than the guy they got from the Jaguars. What's his fucking name? They didn't get Cam Robinson. They got the other one.
Jones?
The Chiefs got the left tackle from Florida who played for Jacksonville.
Yeah, wasn't it Jones? Wasn't it Jawan Jones, something like that?
Yes, Jawan Jones.
Jawan Taylor.
Jawan Jones played for Tennessee, and he just got drafted by the Bears. Anyway, Chiefs fucked up. Bengals gained. They got a very good, probably top 10 tackle in the NFL. Ted Karras is a fine center. Alex Kappa is a fine right guard. Jonah Williams or Lael Collins, whoever starts, is a fine right tackle. Cody Ford, the 3rd string right tackle. Now, he's not a good starter, but he can start. He's a C-plus dude. He's probably the best swing tackle in the NFL. He's got to be. And then at left guard, Cordell Volson actually played pretty well last year. By the way, he's white. And then that's just not a white. And it's like Lamar Hunt is a white dude.
It's just old school white name. It's like my grandfather's name is Jerome.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You go back far enough, time's a flat circle.
And his dad was Leroy.
I'm going to censor myself. So, Max Sharping is their backup left guard, who again is another starting caliber offensive lineman. And then Jackson Carman, who's started several playoff games already in his 2-year career. Second round pick.
Insane.
He's their backup left tackle. Now, he sucks.
He's bad.
He sucks. But that's 2 offensive lines that could start for a lot of fucking teams.
Yeah, no, they have the depth there, which they inevitably will need because Lael Collins and Jonah Williams won't play 16 games between the 2 of them.
Nope.
So it's definitely something that they're going to need, especially with how important it is of keeping Burrow up and giving him time to chuck to one of his jump ball targets.
Yep.
But I think they'll be able to. I think that offense is just going to continue to be a better version of what we've seen in previous years.
Yeah, they've got a ton of consistency year to year in terms of personnel. Like, anytime that there's a change, it's a positive one. They've done a really... Duke Tobin, who runs the smallest executive suite in the NFL, the Bengals have, I'm not even joking, I think they have 5 scouts and a GM, and they do everything.
That's crazy.
Like, that's their scouting department. Now, they have an analytics department, which is separate, but that's their scouts. And Duke Tobin, their GM, is a super scout who has overriding power. He can say, like, the analytics has him in the 5th round, I have him in the 1st, fuck you, I'm doing it. He's great.
He's been really good.
He's an elite GM, and it's not like he's doing it with the most funding. So congrats, Joe Tobin, or Duke Tobin. You have my respect. I called him Joe because I respect him so much, and not because I was looking at Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon next to each other on the depth chart.
But it has nothing to do with the fact that your name is also Joe. You're trying to congratulate yourself.
The Bengals have a wide receiver named Mac Hippenhammer.
That's an incredible name.
That's a hell of a name. You mentioned this earlier. Will Irv Smith Jr. play? Because that would be a dope addition.
Sorry for the sidetrack, but you know where Mac Hippenhammer played?
Where?
Love and Honor, baby.
Woo!
He is a fellow Miami Redhawk.
Can we just dox ourselves? I think I've said that online. We're good.
I was about to say, it's not like it's that small of a school either.
So, the backfield of the Joes is probably the weakest part, assuming Irv Smith plays. Now, Irv Smith will not play.
Unlikely.
He's also small, but he is very fast.
He's never produced.
No.
In offenses that typically use tight ends as well.
Well, it's noteworthy that the Vikings went out and actively acquired a tight end while he was in a contract year.
And then the tight end production got way better.
Way better. Now, totally different kind of tight end.
Agreed. But still, I feel like if you're an athletic tight end that can't produce in Cox's offense, the problem might be with you.
The problem might be with you.
And
he couldn't produce in Stefanski's offense. Yeah. Although I think he might have just been hurt.
Yeah.
Which is the other problem, is he's always hurt.
But the Bengals have been incredible at turning mid-tight ends into very productive ones the last few years.
You ever play Madden?
Well.
You ever run 4 verts in Madden? Because that's all, like, that's Zach Taylor's thing, is like, dude, just fucking 4 verts. He loves 4 verts. I think he calls it 989, but it's basically 4 verts. When you run 4 verts against Madden computers, do you spam the tight end like I do?
Absolutely. The seam is wide open all the time.
And now you understand why CJ Uzama is a rich man. Because it takes no talent to just be there.
Did Hayden Hurst sign a big deal too?
No. But I think he might have also gotten hurt, and also I confused him with Trenton Irwin a lot when doing Bengals breakdowns. The whites. I can't...
It's crazy, with long red hair, too. Like, what are the odds?
Joe Burrow strained his hamstring, and I'm sure we'll use that excuse when he doesn't play too well in week... Well, let's see, they play week 1. Yeah, week 1 they're playing at Cleveland. Probably won't go so well, because it never does for them in Cleveland.
Hayden Hurst is making $7.25 million a year.
With who?
Carolina Panthers.
Oh, God.
He signed a 3-year deal for $21.75.
When you consider that the franchise tag for a tight end is $10 million and Hayden Hurst is $30, that's pretty fucking good.
Mm-hmm. They gave him $13 guaranteed, too.
So it's a 2-year deal for fucking $7 per.
Yeah.
Come on. Okay. Yeah.
I was about to say, like, they've been... And Hayden Hurst, I don't think he's a bad tight end, but he's absolutely the picture of average, maybe a tad better. And between...
I think average is generous.
You think? I don't know. I thought
he's athletic.
Yeah.
He's a fucking idiot.
I mean, I think there's a reason he's on his 4th team in like 6 years.
Because he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I think he's just a solid player that's not special. Like, he's a Dak Prescott type of, you're always kind of looking to upgrade from him, just he's not a quarterback that you're pot committed to.
You mean he's like CJ Uzama?
Exactly.
Very similar. All right, we got to move on to other parts of the team. PFF had Joe Burrow as the number 1 quarterback last year.
Fuck yeah, bro. You see
did
Joe Burrow.
Their PFF fucking sucks, dude.
Still pay for him, though.
The layout of their depth charts is too convenient.
They have an impeccable UI. It's really easy.
The information on it's not very good, but the UI is dope. All right, so I literally exclusively get it so that we can have these podcasts and I can look at the depth charts in formation. I like it.
Complain about the scores they give out. It's a nice...
It gives us a solid 5 minutes of content per week, dude.
Mm-hmm. And if anything, we always need more room for us to talk.
Yeah, we promised ourselves that this podcast would be an hour, and we're 25% of the way through at 40 minutes.
You are the only one that promised that, and I laughed.
It's fucking 10:30 p.m. I wanted to do this at 7. God damn it. All right.
Bengals defense?
Bengals defense is always going to be sick. Lou Anarumo is a killer. They've got my boy, not Byron Scott, but Brian Scott, Nick Scott.
Who's the other safety?
They got Dax Hill.
I was going to see if you knew Dax. I was like, between Scott and Hill, these are not easy last names.
No. Dax Hill is easier because he was a first-round pick and he's new.
And Dax is...
The problem with Byron Scott, who's actually Brian Scott, who's actually Nick Scott, is that I always go through that progression of figuring out his name, and he's one of my favorite players. Not because he's elite, but like he's a guy that I was like, I think that practice squatter can actually play. And it turned out he kind of can. So they have two safeties that I'm optimistic can be starting caliber. They've got like a quietly good cornerback room. Like Mike Hilton's a good nickel corner, like a pretty damn good one.
I think it's like a very, very average, maybe a little better cornerback room.
It's solid.
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree, because Chidobe Awuzie and Mike Hilton are both very solid, dependable starters. Like, they're going to fuck up from time to time, but for the most part, they're going to be good players.
They're not special, but they're good. And then Cam Taylor-Britt is kind of a specialist. Like, he's particularly good with big dudes, but he's a fine corner. Like, I generally agree with PFF's sentiment on these, that these are, like, solid but not very good players. Like, it's a B to B plus group.
Yeah.
And the only reason it would be a B plus is just because it's fairly deep. And they're going to run a ton of spread out zones, a lot of drop 8, a lot of cover 4. So it's going to insulate them from danger.
Mm-hmm. And I like their linebackers in terms of their roles that they play.
Yeah, Jermaine Pratt really kind of came out of nowhere and impressed me. Because he was nothing, and then last year he actually got starting snaps for the first time, and he was, like, good.
Yeah, like good.
Like, really fucking incredible in covering.
Yeah, and then they have Logan Wilson, who also is a demon.
Love him. I may have had a terrible take once where, back in the day, theoretically, I may have said that Logan Wilson was the best Wyoming prospect. I was out on Josh Allen, man. I didn't watch him enough. I took PFF's word that he couldn't fucking pass, and that's when I learned not to trust PFF.
Completion percentages.
Alas.
Lessons learned.
They've got white lightning on their edges still. That's a joke from, like, the first pod we ever did.
Yeah, but it's elite, and Hendrickson and Hubbard are a really good tandem.
Yeah, and then they've got DJ Reader and...
There's a BJ Hill, too,
BJ Hill, and I guess Zach Carter, are you fucking kidding, is playing defensive tackle. Zach Carter was once upon a time a really highly touted defensive end prospect at Florida.
I mean, they got Joseph Osai, too.
I like Osai, but I just don't know how he gets on the field.
He's a D-end more, but yeah. I don't know. I think they'll be able to have some fun with getting more speed on the field.
They'll always have... Well, Hubbard can kick inside really easy.
Yeah.
And so can Hendrickson.
Yeah. So, and I think you have to find a way to get Osai on the field over a guy like... Who did you just say?
Zach Carter.
Yeah.
Fuck him. I've hated him for quite a while.
Yeah, Osai is good. I know, like,
I like Osai.
His grades don't always come across, but he pops when he plays, man.
Fuck that. He's a very quick player. He's got good length. I like him.
He's good in college. He's been good in the NFL. I think he's a great, like, secondary rusher like that.
Yeah, perfect third rusher, and that's what he's going to be used as. So you got a really smart defensive coordinator with a defense that doesn't really have any holes. Like, there's no area where you're like, that part kind of sucks. They've got big dudes who can plug the run in Reader and Hill. They've got fucking great defensive ends in Hendrickson. And Hubbard's not great, but he's a really good complementary piece.
And he's really solid. Like, he can rush, he can stop the run.
Super versatile. He does everything pretty well.
He's a little bit of that kind of like Olivier Vernon type.
Bill Belichick would cream his pants.
Where, like, he doesn't do anything crazy, and his sack numbers are never going to be, like, mid-high teens or anything like that, but he's going to play smart football and give opportunities for your other players to make plays, on top of making some splash plays from time to time.
So, overall, So, I'm way far off market on my Burrow evaluation. Like, famously, I have Joe Burrow as a perfectly average starting quarterback. I have him right down there with, like, Dak Prescott. I don't think there's anything special special about what he does. And yes, I know he keeps winning. And yes, I know he's got very cool hair and big fake teeth. And that's just so swell and swag. But he doesn't actually play very good football. You can't convince me otherwise. I have watched the film. Don't fucking care to hear it. And even still, downgrading Joe Burrow from apparently QB fucking 1 down to QB 15, this is easily a top 10 team. It's arguably a top 5 team just because they don't really have a fucking hole anywhere.
Yeah, I mean...
Their worst player is Joe Burrow. Their worst starter is probably Joe Burrow.
I don't know if I agree with that when Cornell Volson is supposed to be a starter.
Okay, that's fair.
Or Herb Smith Jr. is supposed to be a starter.
Herb Smith Jr. doesn't suck, but I hear you. I understand.
He's average.
Yeah. Okay, so Joe Burrow's amongst the... he's one of the bigger holes in their roster, and that's...
Yeah.
As much as I hate Joe Burrow, he's not bad.
Yeah.
He can Andy Dalton.
And he's perfect in this offense because he is really good at throwing jump balls. He has good timing for it. He has a good eye for it.
He's reckless.
He's a little reckless, but I don't know if he's especially reckless.
Well, I guess it's not reckless if you know that it's T. Higgins or Jamar Chase on the other end. So, it's what Josh McCown did with the Bears for that year when he had Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall, and he was just like, oh, if the ball goes high, either we catch it or nobody does.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's tough because you have to give him a lot of credit for figuring that out and being able to throw catchable jump balls all the time and have the chemistry with those receivers. But you do go, he's just fucking throwing jump balls.
Yeah, if you take that away from him, he's not good. And that's not something you can rely on unless you happen to have 2 top 10 wide receivers.
Exactly.
Who happen to be possession masters. You could argue the 2 best jump ball artists in the NFL. George Pickens would be mad at you, but you could argue.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, I know he's fucking old.
He's a little fucking old.
But he still can jump and his hands are glue. So I have a hard time pulling him out of that conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, if he plays 6 games and is limping around the field this year, which is very possible.
Sounds very appropriate. So, Bengals, we can't fade. I can't gas them simply because I don't believe in Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and I don't think there's that much value there.
Simply, if Joe Burrow was what people think he is, this team would win the Super Bowl. I don't think it'd be close.
Yeah, with that coaching as well.
Yeah, they got great aggressive coaching. Yeah, so this is a no... Oh, and I guess retroactively, because I forgot that we could totally do gas and fade on these. I'm not gassing or fading the Ravens either. I don't really have an opinion. I think the market's pretty close.
Like we talked about, I think it might be worth it to gas the Ravens week 1 and then immediately start fading them.
I literally have written in my notes, bet on Ravens week 1, fade week 2 versus Cincinnati.
Exactly. So I think they're going to be a very situational gas or fade because they depend a lot on matchups.
We know what's coming. It's just a matter of when it hits.
Exactly.
We will get our signal. The British are coming. And by British, I mean people who defend the pass. And then we bet against them. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're halfway through the AFC North, and it's only taken us an hour. What's next?
Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns.
Ooh. Would you like to kick us off?
I mean, I've stuck pretty true to denouncing my Browns fandom, and I've largely become pretty indifferent to them after wanting bad things to happen to them last year. Now they're kind of just in that same boat as the Bengals and the Ravens. They're I hope bad things happen. So you're not going to get that much vitriol out of me. And honestly, I think they actually had a really good offseason.
I hate to admit it. Andrew Berry doesn't understand quarterbacks, but everything else he does very well with.
I mean, they shored up, which they've had an issue with figuring out fixes to some of their massive holes for the last 3 straight years. But to go out and get Juan Thornhill to play kind of a center field role and then to get Dalvin Tomlinson to be their big body in the middle of the D-line, those were their 2 biggest weaknesses on defense and what killed a lot of games for them last year.
Yep.
And they got very legitimate players at both positions for good value too, but that's separate.
And they added Zadarius Smith. Now, I think Zadarius Smith's overrated, but I think he's a good starting defensive end, and you put any good starting defensive end across from Myles Garrett, good things happen. And Zadarius Smith is typically healthy.
Yes, and I think, you talk about that complementary second defensive end. I think he fills that role really well, too.
And you know what else? They got a new defensive coordinator. Jim Schwartz is not going to run cover 4 every play. He's not going to run soft halos.
Yeah, I mean, this defense is going to be way better just by the fact that they have Jim Schwartz.
Just by the fact that they're going to be trying to stop people rather than hoping the people fuck up. Literally, the Browns' defense for the last handful of years has been, well, if we make them run enough plays, eventually they'll fuck up.
I mean, and just moving on from Joe Woods, where having a small amount of inside information, that DB room hated him. They all knew that they got put in terrible positions. They were all put out of position. I mean, they had 3 strong safeties that played corner, safety, and free safety.
Yeah.
Like, they were always in bad positions with the worst use of their talent and 0 changes to try and fix it. So I think just getting even like they could have a dog hitting the Madden suggestions and their defense would be better, but the fact that they actually have Jim Schwartz back there will be a humongous change.
Yeah, and speaking of the DB room, like Denzel Ward, really good corner. Now he's small, and that sucks. Like, there's a way to get him, and it just so happens that half this division is stacked with big receivers, which hurts him. But he's really good. And he had a bad year last year, according to PFF. I don't fucking care. He's a good player. And he's going to be playing a lot more man, which is his bread and butter. You've got Martin Emerson Jr. He's kind of a matchup dude. Like, he's a little bit like Brandon Browner was, in that he's a big dude who probably should stick with cover 3, but you stick him on a tight end or a big body dude like a George Pickens, it's a good matchup. He's at an advantage. And then Greg Newsome is like, you could argue that Newsome is the most versatile corner in the NFL.
He can play really all over the field.
And he can play zone or man just about as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a smart kid.
Yeah, he's going to get paid too.
He's going to get fucking paid. Yeah, no, that's probably true.
He'll do the same exact thing John Johnson did.
That's probably very true. Linebackers, I like JOK.
JOK's great. The rest of it's shit.
Yeah.
But again, it's Jim Schwartz. He doesn't give a fuck about linebackers.
No.
He loved coaching for the Eagles. They had 2 on the roster.
They got Sione Takitaki still.
It's crazy to me he stuck around as long as he has.
I think that they've just forgotten he's there.
Well, I mean, he's good at his role of being a missile, but he's not that good at it, and he's hurt a lot.
And missiles aren't that valuable.
Yeah, like in today's NFL, it's how often do you want a thumper on the field? Like 1 play every set of downs?
Well, and even if you do, that's Anthony Walker's music.
Yeah. But they're going to have 2 linebackers on the field most of the time this year.
If that. And it's going to be a much improved defense.
Yes. I think their defense will actually be, like a lot of people have talked about, the Browns defense really shaping up for a few years because they had some big names. But I think they'll actually be good this year. Fuck, they got Ogbo Okoronkwo.
Obi Okoronkwo. He's tiny, but I love him. He's got insane bend.
And when you're using him as a 3rd rusher, 4th rusher, depending on how you view Alex Wright, he's a great option because you just go and be like, hey, run really fast. And it can change up on an offense. And I think he's really effective in that role, too. So he's not going to be asked to play like a true edge position.
Just running through it, their defensive interior is now a B-, which is so much. I gave him a D last year, so that's a lot better. Dalvin Tomlinson changes things. They've got an A- at edges because they've got probably the 2nd best defensive end in the world. I'm a Max Crosby guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there. I think between...
If you want to say he's the best, I can't argue.
Yeah, and Nick Bosa, I think, has edged himself into that conversation.
Nah.
I think Watt is... I think he gets a lot of cheap sacks.
I think Watt is scheme.
But his production is hard to argue with.
Yeah.
And when you do watch him have highlights where he just completely bowls through motherfuckers. But I think they're a scheme. But there are a lot of guys. Undoubtedly, Myles Garrett is fucking elite, though.
Yeah. And then Zadarius Smith is good. So, and honestly, call it an A. Call that an A defensive end group. And then the secondary, I'll give them a B+ at corner, a B+ at nickel, and I'll even give them a B+ at free safety because I like Juan Thornhill.
I really like Juan Thornhill.
I wish they would have got Juan Thornhill like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted them to draft him when he came out.
I remember he was your guy.
Loved him. And
that was a good fucking safety draft too, because that was Armani Hooker too.
Oh, he took
and then Taylor Rapp, not as much.
Yeah, he's been effective. And I think Delpit being in a strong safety role, instead of having to switch between free safety and all that, lets him simplify the game and lets him do more of the closer to the line, just hit people. You don't have to play center field. You don't have to be paying attention to stuff 3 plays out.
I actually completely agree, and that's why I upgraded him from a D to a C.
Yeah, so I think they're finally where guys are in the right positions, and they've filled holes that have been issues for them in previous years.
So overall, it's going to be a pretty decent defense.
Yeah, you want to talk about the offense?
Yeah, because I think this is going to be the disappointing part. Let's talk offensive line first. Outside of Jedrick Wills, the offensive line is going to be very good.
Crazy.
Bill Callahan will make, if you're big, if you're over 6'3", and you're over 290, Bill Callahan will make you a good offensive lineman, unless you're Jedrick Wills.
And you don't care about football.
And you just suck and don't give a fuck, and you're made of Cheetos.
That's a guy that really should have just tried for like 2 years and then
gotten his paycheck and gone home.
And because then he would have, if he would have had 2 good years to start his career,
he'd be a starter
for 10 years. He would have gotten a second contract for $12 million a year minimum.
He could have done the Matt Khalil. Remember Matt Khalil with the fucking Vikings? I remember sitting and thinking as a Bears fan in Matt Khalil's second year, like, how the fuck is this guy so good, and how come the Bears can't get offensive linemen like this? And then in his third year, I remember thinking, holy shit, he forgot how to play football.
Yes. And so I think Wills could have done that, but I think he doesn't even care enough to try and put it on for 2 years.
Evidently, because he fucking hasn't done it. So they're going to have a hole at left tackle. I personally think Dajuan Jones should start over him, day one.
I think they have a handful of guys that can come in at either tackle spot, and they definitely will, because
look no further than Teller and Pocic. They do this.
Yeah.
And you're right. Conklin is never healthy.
Yeah. And I mean, even Wills is not healthy either. So I think they have good depth to kind of back that up, which has been an issue in the past. I mean, shit, Nick Harris was supposed to be the center last year and played well in the I don't know, 2 preseason games before he ended a season. Drew Forbes is still there. Michael Dunn is still there. These are guys that are versatile, have played all over the line. I think they were both tackles in college. James Hudson is a guy that they've been really high on for a couple years, is super athletic, has that mean streak, just kind of has to learn how to play tackle, and that's where Bill Callahan comes in. So I think that O-line is again going to be top tier, and will let them run all over and kind of run that Stefanski offense like they want to. Do you want to go into the pass catchers, or do you want to get into the fun part?
No, let's go skill players, because we got to build to the fucking climax. I really like what Eli Moore is going to offer them in the slot.
I think he's a perfect addition.
Where the fuck were these weapons when Baker Mayfield played here?
They didn't think they were that close. I don't know, man.
Amari Cooper, he's a top 10 receiver.
Yeah, I mean he's a number one. He's not
Certainly
like an elite number one,
yep.
But he's a number one that you can count on. He's going to put up yards. He's going to get you touchdowns. It's not going to be crazy.
The acceleration, the route running, the guy's a genius. He makes good catches. He's consistent. The guy is a fucking good number one receiver. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones is finally in the spot he always should have been, which is an X who is a third option.
Yeah, and he's gotten the few years of seasoning that he needed coming in.
He's gotten a ton better.
Because he didn't get coached in college.
And he basically had to, by default, be the wide receiver 1 for his first 2 years in the league.
It's insane.
Remember, Baker had a lot of weapons in Cleveland. They were stacked.
And then you have Eli Moore, who they just added, or Elijah Moore, who they just added, who was another guy that I was incredibly high on out of the draft.
He was in your DJ Moore, AJ Brown mold that you love so much.
Mm-hmm. He's just thick and can just take balls underneath and make people miss.
Yep.
It's just that kind of Steve Smith angle. But
yeah, you've got a type. You like short, built guys.
Yeah, you can get me going.
For those of you who are not watching the video we are not currently making, I am a short-built guy.
But so I think their pass catchers, the Elijah Moore type, was what they were really missing.
It's perfectly versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you could design a Z receiver, like an off-ball wide receiver, Amari Cooper is pretty damn close. And if you could design an X receiver, Donovan Peoples-Jones at least looks the part, even if he's not that caliber. Mm-hmm. And Elijah Moore, he hasn't produced that well with the Jets, but he never was going to. They don't use a lot of third receiver in that offense, or at least they didn't. And Zach Wilson is dog doo-doo.
I was about to say, who was throwing the ball?
So I'm just going to go off my college evaluation of him. He's a perfect prototype of a slot. So they've got all the different kinds of receivers. Don't forget Anthony Schwartz is theoretically supposed to be fast. I have yet to really see it pan out on a football field. And even when it does, he can't catch a cold. But they theoretically have every kind of receiver. And then David Njoku seems to have finally put it together last year. Browns fans think he's a top 3 tight end in the NFL. I say, well, there's some other things in that lake that might not be flammable, but are similarly harmful, if that's your honest belief.
I think he's fighting to be a top 10 tight end.
I think he could be a top 10 tight end. Yeah, he's probably a top 10 tight end.
I think he's right in that realm.
He still catches like a fucking alligator chomps,
but he's so athletic.
He's very athletic, and we're not going there. But I'm right. You know what I want to say, and I'm right.
The guy can do everything. He's actually an incredible blocker. Like, you don't really expect it because he came out as a...
He surely did come out.
As a receiving option. I'm just going to power through.
That's what he did. He would love to power through as well.
And he stayed healthy has always been a big issue for him because the man does just break.
He gets banged up.
But he seemed like he kind of put it all together last year.
He certainly did.
So I think he's going to be in a good position.
It's just a shame he can't really handle the ball. If he could handle balls, he would be quite impressive.
I mean, I think you're pretty sure he can.
He's got a lot of potential to handle balls. I just don't know if he's done it yet.
I'm pretty sure you think he's handled a lot of balls.
There are flashes of him handling balls really well, but he doesn't do it consistently enough for me to come out and say he's a ball handler.
At least not on tape.
Certainly not on tape. Enough gay jokes. Nick Chubb's really fucking good.
Yeah, he's incredible.
He's not a weapon in the passing game, but you don't need to be.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. He's one of the few running backs that it makes sense to just fucking give the ball to.
Yeah.
How about the piece de resistance?
Yeah, it's the thing we've been waiting to talk about.
Deshaun Watson is dog doo-doo.
He's bad. I think he's as bad as you do, but I can't deny what I saw last year, which is a bad quarterback.
So I was going through with one of my group chats full of football buddies on Twitter, which, Elon, stop limiting me. I like to send one thought in several messages for dramatic effect. I need my DMs. I also have an Android. People don't like to text me. I can't do the emojis. I digress. We were going over the fact that Deshaun Watson was like the original quarterback that I disliked and kind of rallied against, despite popular opinion being that he was dope as fuck. You may remember his rookie year when he literally couldn't run a fucking offense, but he had a couple sick runs that made ESPN before he tore his ACL, and then all of Twitter had a fucking funeral, gave him the Medal of Honor, because he tore his... he tore his ACL. People reacted worse than when... Gotten in trouble for that. They reacted like he died.
Preseason for everyone, guys.
Dwayne Haskins. So, originally I had Deshaun Watson with about a 2.0 grade, which is a low-end starter, a below-average starter. And then in 2020, his 4-12 season that people were just so enamored with because garbage time stats. In 2020, I bumped him up to a 2.3 or a 2.3.5, which is a perfectly average quarterback. That's almost exactly where I have Burrow right now. And, that was mostly just being afraid that I was missing something because he's not very good. Never was. He doesn't do anything that well. He has one move. He really likes rolling out to his right, even when there's no pressure, finding a receiver who will run parallel with him, and then trying to play monkey in the middle with any defender. So if the defender comes up to take Watson, he throws it over his head. And if the guy covers the receiver, Watson will just run. And it's good for like 5 to 10 yards every time. But if a team plays like cover 2, you can't do that. If a team plays cover 3, you can't really do that. If a team drops 8, you can't do that. So I don't understand how that's going to work long term. In fact, I'm highly skeptical it will. And his accuracy just fucking sucks, and his processing is fucking not good. So I have him back down at a 2.0 like I used to, and I that ranks as quarterback 24.
But Joe, have you considered what will happen when Kevin Stefanski opens up the offense?
Ah, yes. The promise that Kevin Stefanski has made each of the last 4 years, is it now?
I think it's literally every offseason since the first one that he got hired. Because he didn't say it, in his
You can't open up the offense. You haven't. Well, no, but he did come in saying how he was going to be aggressive and you're going to rely on the pass, and then he fucking ran the same 5 pass concepts every play.
Every single year.
Every fucking play that Kevin Stefanski runs is one of 4 things or 5 things. Jarvis Landry running an option and everybody else running slants or outs. Or his favorite is the play action bootleg left with the fucking tight end shallow over, like just a little deeper than a drag, but half as deep as like a typical over, so like 5 yards downfield.
I see that play in my dreams.
Yep. He likes running Donovan Peoples-Jones on a streak with stick on the backside, so like a slant from Amari Cooper and, David Njoku fucking around in the middle, just trying to get up in some guys' guts. And it's just not a very diverse pass game, and it's not a very aggressive passing game. So while Kevin Stefanski is actually pretty good on fourth down, he makes the right calls, he talks a great game, he's really good at figuring out when to go for it in the deep red zone and on 2-point conversions, but he's still a pussy because he doesn't call 4 verts like Zach Taylor, and he loves sitting on leads just a little too early.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I always go to with him, is that he's got this, conflict in his head in that he loves to play from ahead because he wants to be able to run and just chew clock and be able to kind of impose their will on the other team. But he's fucking god-awful at playing from ahead. The man has no idea how to play with a lead because he plays possum and just goes, oh, well, we're running. And then as soon as there are 2 runs that get stopped, he's like, oh, shit, well, we got to throw. And tries like a 40-yard bomb on fourth down. And you're like, what's the thought process here? And you look, and it's because he's pissing himself.
He fucking loves the, Nick Chubb just broke 6 yards up the middle. Do it 3 more fucking times.
You're doing it until it's 3rd and 8.
Yeah, just it's very confusing because he is a smart guy and he does have some plays drawn up that are really creative. And I could totally see why, from the outside looking in, if you're not paying very close attention to the Browns, you would think Kevin Stefanski's low-key a pretty damn good coach. But there's a reason he's going to get fired this year when Deshaun Watson disappoints. And Deshaun Watson will disappoint because there are some people out there who think he's a top 3 fucking quarterback.
It's insane to me. Are there people that still think he's top 3, right now? Even after watching him play last year?
And there are a lot. Chris Sims just ranked him 8. Do we fade the Browns? I kind of want to fade the Browns. I'm so impressed with their defense, but defense doesn't really fucking matter. And it's not special in any one way, aside from Myles Garrett. That's kind of a big aside.
My question is, what is even the Browns' win total right now? 10? Because... how many fucking games did they win with Jacoby Brissett last year?
Yeah, so their win total is 9.5. Honestly, I might go over that. I have them at 10.5 wins, but this is not a win total podcast. But also, they open the season against Cincinnati, and then they go to Pittsburgh, and then Tennessee, and then Baltimore. They have a week 5 bye.
And, that's miserable.
That sucks. But they have San Francisco after it, and that's who you want.
Do you think Cincinnati's going to have Burrow for that? Well, we're way ahead of ourselves. But they might not have to play Burrow.
That's a podcast for 4 weeks from now.
Yep.
Tune in September 3rd or some shit like that if I'm not in San Francisco for a case.
We'll just go back to the old days.
The Zooms.
You're gonna be hiding in a bathroom.
I'll be hiding in Stalin's bathroom. Time's a flat circle. At least I won't be hiding in a closet, Dave.
So I think that even if they can't pass the ball for shit, they're still a good team because they have a really good defense with an elite run game. They have an incredible offensive line and one of the best running backs in the league.
Totally true.
Worst case, they just have to go and play ultimate Mike Vrabel ball, which I think Kevin Stefanski would...
I think he'd probably be very excited.
Yeah, he'd just be having his nighty blanket on the sidelines because he's like, I've never felt this comfortable before in my life.
Yeah, you make a good... Deshaun Watson played 6 games last year. They were 6 of the worst games of the entire fucking season by anybody, and they still went 2-3.
Yeah.
Against decent competition. Yeah, fuck.
3-3, 2-3, 2-4.
Oh yeah, 2-3 does not add up.
I was about to say, I think
they went 3-3.
It was and he looked horrible.
Horrible. Every facet of his game was fucking atrocious.
He had a couple exciting plays, but the vast majority of it was legitimately bad. I just still have a hard time. I know he was never as good as some of the numbers and the public wanted everyone to believe, but he was still so bad last year that I have to believe that he gets better during this offseason.
I do too. He sucked in Houston, but he has shown us that he is at least occasionally competent. I think he's a lot closer to the 2.4 grade that I gave him after 2020 than the 2.0 grade that I gave him after this year. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I gotta fucking see it.
Yeah.
There's a decent chance that he got his fucking money and he went through all that shit and his brain's broken. It happens.
And he says, fuck this, I don't care
A
anymore.
lot of people have broken for lesser reasons. He got everything he ever wanted to move to a city he doesn't like, and he also got accused of some shit I said earlier. And I bleeped, but you know what I said 26 times. Because he fucking did it. I hope YouTube doesn't dislike that we swear. Anyway, that's the Browns. There's one team left in the AFC North. Because we're not going to fade the Browns because they're just too good at the fundamentals.
Yeah.
In classic Ohio fashion.
And then, do you know who we're going to next? The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Talking about fundamentals. The Rust Belt just does one fucking thing and they play the hits. Yeah, okay, Kenny Pickett quietly sucked last year. And I think that that's going to be the fucking turning point of this team.
How in the fuck? He's actually graded pretty well on PFF.
Well, I think we've established that PFF is fucking nuts.
Agreed, but still, decent grade.
Their offensive line is better, but it's still kind of like their tackles suck. Their tackles undoubtedly suck.
Dude, I loaded into this and went, how in the fuck is Chuck Okorafor still starting?
I remember 2 years ago when we were joking about something called a Chuck Okorafor.
And, he was a good swing tackle back then. I feel like he's still a good swing tackle. They keep being like, hey, buddy, you're going to have to start again. We're fucked.
Yeah, and, somebody named Dan Moore is playing left tackle again. They just don't care about their tackles. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Poor Najee Harris. If only he could get some blocking. He's been disappointing, but I don't think it's all his fault.
I agree.
The one thing that they do really fucking well is get skill players.
They do.
If Allen Robinson remembers how to play football, then this is arguably the best wide receiving core in the NFL. Because George Pickens is crazy, but he's also crazy good.
I feel like that's some really high praise off rip. I agree, George Pickens has all the talent in the world.
Let's assume that 22-year-old George Pickens takes a half step forward. He's already looking at being a top 10 to top 15 receiver.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to compare to other elite wide receiver rooms, I mean, he's already in that better than T. Higgins.
I think T. Higgins is a good comp for him.
Yeah, I think he's just more athletic.
He's certainly faster.
T. Higgins can catch and has incredible body control, but that motherfucker's slow.
Yeah, he's a tight end.
Yeah, Pickens is, can do all the things, but he's fast.
He ran a 4.40. And even with the juiced combine numbers, that's a mid 4.4s.
Yeah, he's big. And then, I still wonder about Jalen Johnson, or Deontay Johnson. Jalen Johnson, the corner.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson is very quick, and he has hands made of stone.
I like him. He gets open so often, but it seems like he gets targeted a lot.
He does.
And I know he drops a lot of balls, but also it feels like he has so many passes that are just completely uncatchable. And so he's so frustrating, because he'll get 13 targets, but he'll have 6 catches for 50 yards.
And it's still the Matt Canada offense, which is way too conservative. It's old school West Coast, original West Coast, before Andy Reid revamped it.
It's stupid, is what it is.
And again, quietly, I didn't grade a lot of Kenny Pickett during the season, so from afar I was like, I feel like Kenny Pickett's actually doing better than I thought he would. Then I watched him. I was wrong.
Shitty.
He fucking sucks.
I remember we had that conversation too. I was like, he's going to be terrible. And you're like, no, I think he'll be all right. And then we watched him and we're like, he's terrible.
Kenny Pickett, read a zone defense challenge. Difficulty impossible. He can't do it. He's never done it. Every time he has a zone defense, he just panics and throws it up to his first read. And he has a bad arm. And he's just no. He's supposed to be a cerebral quarterback, and he is baffled by the most common kinds of coverages in the NFL. I'm not impressed, and I think that he will be what holds the Steelers back.
I agree.
Because I think their defense will be good, but I still have them ranked as the 22nd team in the NFL, because I just don't see a way that a bad offensive coordinator and a bad quarterback can lead to a good team.
Yeah, I think that defense will kind of be classic Steelers, and that the secondary is going to be shitty, but will somehow be okay because that front seven won't destroy people.
They insulate their cornerbacks so well. Patrick Peterson is not good. Joey Porter Jr. I actually really like. I think he's a perfect fit too. I love him as a player, and I love that he went to the Steelers, not only because his dad was there, and Joey Porter was my favorite, because when I was a kid, he was the only guy that went by Joey, and I was like, he gets it.
This man knows what's up.
But they still have Cam Hayward, who's still elite. They still have TJ Watt, who's great. They still have Alex Highsmith, who's also great.
Just cashed in. Proud of him.
Alex Highsmith was always your dude.
Yeah. So, small school, baby.
Charlotte?
I think it was Charlotte.
Charlotte 49ers. He did set records there, but you bought in early. You recognized that he was a better athlete than I thought. Good on you.
And then the Steelers drafted him. I was like, yeah, he'll be a really good edge.
But they don't fuck up a lot. The Steelers are doing the odd thing of filling their secondary with players from the Vikings secondary, the Vikings who sucked.
Yeah, bad. So it's like front seven, great. They pick all the best players. Wide receiver, pick all the best player. Offensive line, secondary, shit.
Minkah Fitzpatrick has become a better safety than I ever thought he would, but he's still not great. He will get beat if you put him in man a lot. But that's typical of any safety. The difference is just that they think they can do it with him. He's one of those dudes, man, he's just got a horseshoe up his ass or GPS on the ball or something because he gets turnovers. And it seems unsustainable. It keeps on being sustained. So Minkah is a pretty good safety, and then DeMonte Casey's another pretty good safety. They're both coverage safeties. I appreciate that. That's why they're allowed to get away with so much. Their defense allows their corners to relax because they run such boundary-driven coverages. Puts a lot of stress on their linebackers, which is why their linebackers always seem to suck no matter who they are. And Landon Roberts and what's his name?
Hey, didn't they just sign Quan Alexander, though?
How old is he?
I don't care. He's still wonderful. He's just because he's been in the league for 12 years. Not really. He's only been in the league for 8.
What?
Quan Alexander? Yeah, he got drafted in 15.
So he's 31 or something?
Maybe.
Regardless, they put a lot of stress on their linebackers, so it simply won't matter who they put at linebacker. He's 29?
29.
That's young.
I know. Dude, I like Quan Alexander.
I do too, but it's not going to matter.
It probably won't.
No linebacker can do what they ask.
What do you mean? They got Nick Kwiatkowski back there.
He's the last person who can accomplish what they're
know,
They want their linebackers.
Antithesis.
They want their linebackers to cover so much ground because they effectively play this weird shell where, like, so you know how cover 4 has 4 defensive backs going deep and then 3 dudes underneath, like dividing the field into thirds.
Okay.
They basically do that with their linebackers, but they play like halves. It's very difficult for them to manage what they're being asked. And Nick Kwiatkowski is smart and he's a great tackler, but
he's not a coverage
boy
guy.
Is he slow. And I loved him. I thought he was a steal out of the 5th round out of West Virginia, but that's just not his game. So you're going to be able to exploit them over the middle with the tight ends. You're going to be able to no, you can't really run because Cam Hayward is so good and Larry Ogunjobi is so good.
I like Larry. I don't know how well Larry does in that setup, but he's still too light.
Yeah,
to play in a 3-4, in my opinion.
I
love Larry as a guy. I want nothing but good things for him.
He's too light for the way that he likes to play football.
Yeah.
He should be a nose guard. He's not a 3-tech. And he's a good nose guard, but he wants to be skinny because he understands his priorities properly. If he wasn't a professional football player. If he was any other dude, he's very focused on his being trim. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he gets better pussy because of it. But fuck, man. God, I really hope YouTube does not care that we curse and say vagina.
I'm pretty sure you can post it, you just can't get any money off of it. It gets demonetized. I think that's how they work. That might be Twitch. I could be wrong.
We're gonna find out, aren't we? Because I'm not putting it on fucking YouTube if I don't get money.
We're going to have to come in here and be like, I really don't appreciate the way that man plays. Please give us money.
Regardless, I think that we've established the Steelers, they are a decent team. But they are a decent team with a bad quarterback and a bad offensive coordinator.
Yeah, they're going to have to do the same thing they've done for probably the last 3 or 4 years, which is pray the defense can hold the other team to under 20 points, and you can fluke your way into a couple touchdowns because you have really good playmakers.
Yeah, once again, they're going to struggle to get to 500, but I think they can do it. I think they're the same team as the Patriots. Largely in caliber.
Yeah, I think they get there in different ways, but I agree with you in that both teams will always end up at around 500 in the worst case.
All right, so this is an issue. We've got 4 teams in the AFC North. We spent an hour and a half talking about them. It's going to be less for you guys because I'm going to edit it down. But do we have a fucking take on any of them? Do we want to guess or fade any of these teams?
I mean, the Steelers' win total is 8.5, and
that feels right.
I think it does. I think if I had to go anyway, I'd probably go under, but I think they're going to win 8 games. Shit. I mean, and I know that's not the thing to do, but getting into the schedule.
Yeah, they all have pretty easy schedules.
Because they play the AFC South this year.
Yeah, so, like, I don't think that Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, or Cleveland are a shoo-in to lose any game particularly. Yeah. The only team that I think is a shoo-in to lose a game is Baltimore losing to San Francisco late in the season. Mostly because I believe Lamar Jackson will be hurt or having diarrhea, as he does.
Hey, Tyler Huntley coming back.
Pro Bowl quarterback.
Round 3, baby.
Literally a Pro Bowl quarterback.
I know.
No, so like my season win total projection for the Ravens, guess it?
11.
9.75.
Damn.
The line, 10. For the Bengals, guess my projection?
9.5.
11.5.
What?
Line is 11.5.
I thought you said you had your algorithm had them lower.
Now has them as a 6th, 7th best team.
I thought the Ravens were like one spot ahead.
Yeah, but it's scheduled.
Didn't the Bengals have a harder...
Theoretically.
Yeah.
But, okay, so...
Whatever. Okay, 11.
Remember that the Ravens have to play the Bengals.
Yeah.
I think the Bengals are better, even though the algorithm disagrees.
See, I think they'll split.
I do too.
And I don't know how they play, but I think if both of them are healthy, I think they split. I think the only team that doesn't split is the Steelers.
Part of the reason is because Cincinnati gets San Francisco after their bye week, whereas Baltimore gets San Francisco late in the season.
Now,
week 16.
San Francisco might also be playing Nick Mullins by then, who is currently on the Vikings, I'm pretty sure. But,
yeah, that's correct. But it also makes sense.
But he'll end up back there. Because the 49ers lose players left and right, too. They're another team that's always injured.
We're not talking about the NFC West. I want to as well.
Bro, have you seen Trey Lance?
It's so bad. Who could have seen this coming? We need to make a fucking clip where it's somebody saying, like, who could have seen this coming, and then just plaster my face on the YouTube video.
I feel like you'll be able to change that one around a little bit to have some more David and Njoku fun, too. I wish we had video.
David and Njoku never saw them coming. Because David and Njoku doesn't like the Bloodhound Gang.
We can workshop it.
Anyway, back to football. Pittsburgh, I have them at 9.25 wins. Line is 9. And finally, Cleveland, I have them at 10.5 wins. Line is 9.5. So, like, the team I'm highest on is, unfortunately, the Browns. And I'm not.
And I think the Steelers are guaranteed to win between 6 and 9 games. I think the Browns might win 4 games.
I don't think that's possible. Nick Chubb!
Yeah, you're right. They could win. See, I think they could finish 4th in that division, though.
I think that the Ravens are the team with the really fat tail towards the negative. I think the Ravens could have a season from hell. If they go pass heavy and it turns out Lamar is who I think he is and he just can't fucking hack it no matter what, like it doesn't matter, he can't throw the ball where he wants it, they could suck dicks.
See, but I think
David and Njoku.
If that shit happens, though, they're gonna do what you talked about, which they're gonna go, okay, this is not working. We're 2-4, and we need to run the ball more. And we talked about their personnel is still set up to be able to maul people.
Yeah.
And even if you save Lamar 6 weeks of hits because you're throwing out of the pocket, now he's still going to get hit during those 6 weeks, but you save him some beat up, you might be able to keep him around a little bit longer. So I think the Ravens, and I just think the Ravens are a better run team and organization, so I think that helps raise that floor, whereas the Browns might fire Kevin Stefanski in week 13. I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll probably wait till the offseason.
I wouldn't put it past Jimmy Haslam for a second.
But it's Jimmy Haslam, and it's not like Watson is also the most like, we're going to see how it happens, see how it plays out. That dude might be like, fuck this dude, get him out of here. I'm not playing anymore. So I think it could go really bad for the Browns, whereas I think the Steelers are going to be fine, not good. The Bengals they're going to be a good team. Bengals
are going to be a good fucking team.
They're going to win 10-12.
They
probably actually higher, but
the only thing that could stop them is if Joe Burrow actually gets hurt. Because as much as I don't think he's very good, their backup's Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, and it's that whole perception is reality. If you don't have Joe Burrow there,
locker room.
1, it's going to be soul crushing in the locker room. 2, they're going to play way different on offense, even though they don't need to play that different.
Yep.
That I think it'll just completely change their mindset, their whole opinion on it, on top of being like, we lost our guy.
True. So an hour and a half of podcasting later, our determination is that now we are much, much, much more familiar with the AFC North, but we don't have shit for angles. Other than, we do have one thing. It looks like a pretty winning combo to back Baltimore versus Houston week 1 and then immediately turn around and fade that ass versus Cincinnati. Fading that ass, not unlike David Njoku might do.
You're getting a lot of content in on him today.
I'm just getting it all out of my system, which is probably what David Njoku thought when he went to that bathhouse, but he was wrong. I don't know that he went to a bathhouse. I'm assuming.
I mean, he does hang out with Deshaun Watson now.
Deshaun Watson likes what about his butt now?
My goodness.
Deshaun Watson found a new buddy to be giving him massages of his anus?
Bet the over on Njoku yards. That chemistry is about to be off the charts.
Well, they could have a quarrel, a certain type of quarrel between certain kinds of people.
What do you mean? Deshaun will just pay him off.
Okay, it's time to end the fucking pod. We're not getting to the NFC tonight. We'll try to get to the NFC tomorrow or maybe Friday. We'll do the NFC at some point. We'll do it. Until next time, please bet on football games. I guess you got one today, because I'm going to release this tomorrow morning. So yeah, you got a football game to bet on today. Go hit the Jets. Check my Patreon. That's where I said to do it. Asta.